Well, this is what I'm going to be cooking today. It's a good one, and I'm sure you'll love it. Hey, welcome back to my kitchen. Hey, today I'm going to be doing a pot roast. Now, I haven't done this one on my show, I don't think ever. I was wanting to do a round roast. A lot of times when I was a boy, they would call this a rump roast. It is bottom round inside. All right, so it's actually a pretty good cut, and I'm looking forward to roasting this thing up. I want to show you that, hey, even when you think that the cut, that you might not be familiar with it, doesn't mean that it can't produce well. All right, now the neat thing here is I've got a really cool cut of beef that at one time was considered the premier cut to have if you were going to do a roast beef. If you did a roast beef and you weren't using round, then, well, there was possibly something wrong. And chuck was using chuck was considered a downgrade from what this is. And now the role seems to have reversed. Chuck is expensive now, but these are a much lower cost cut, and that's one of the reasons I decided to do it. I wanted to target some of these cuts of meat that are lower cost. And also I'm going to be listing this in my playlist for easy weeknight meals. Not because it's so easy for a weeknight, but because it's a great meal for a weekend that's really easy to do. Even though it may seem complex, it really isn't. And when I get into this and show you what I'm going to do here, you'll go, well, that's not hard. I can do that. Trust me, easy to do one of these. First thing we got to do, get the oven preheating, okay? So that thing will be nice and hot when I'm ready to use it. And that's only going to be a matter of a few minutes from now. Now, before we get into our ingredients, I would like to remind you, please look in my description box. That's where I have links to my website, and that is where I sell my recipes. That's Texas Cooking Today recipes are sold at S.A.Trotter.com, along with my merch, my shirts, hats, caps, other neat little items that I have for Texas Cooking Today. They're all right there, so please take a look at that. And thank you very much for those who have bought. I really appreciate your business. If you need to know, yes, you can go PayPal, Apple Pay. There's a lot of ways of doing it, so it's all very well structured for you. Thank you for doing that, and let's take a look at this. Come on over. The ingredients I'm going to be using for my pot roast today starts with this right here. It's a beautiful big chunk of beef, and this is part of the round. Now, round is going to be part of the back leg of the cow, folks. If you're talking about inside round, well, then it's towards the inside of the cow, okay? So think of the inside of the leg. And this one's towards the bottom, so this would be the bottom lobe here. So that's where the cut is from. Beautiful cut of meat. I really love this. With that, we've got potatoes, carrots, some onion. I want to use a red onion, but any onion will do. I've got some garlic, salt, a little bit of wine. That's just for the acid content. This time it's a white wine. Black pepper, tarragon, Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of olive oil. Folks, all of that, when it's cooked just the right way, equals an unbelievably delicious dish. Now let me show you how to make it. As you can see, we got a beautiful selection of ingredients. You've just heard the oven beeping. It's time to get on with this, right? Well, you might think, oh, he's got a lot of work in front of him. Not really. See, my back is killing me right now. I'm taking pain pills, but it still hurts. Here's the thing. I wanted a meal that was easy to do, all right? And I remember Mom teaching me when I was younger, and I said, Mom, you work so hard on Sundays to make the Sunday meal. She said, no, that's the reason I do that meal, is because it's not hard. And I said, what? And she said, no, all I have to do is come home, make some gravy and 2 vegetables, and y'all are sitting down and eating. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, she's right, you know, the roasting starts early in the day, and she'll come home and prepare a couple of vegetables after the Sunday service, and suddenly we're sitting down and having a beautiful meal. And that's what happened as a boy. So I learned that, hey, sometimes for the weekends when you want an easy weekend meal, This is it. Takes a little longer because it's roasting, but big deal. You put it in early and just go and do something. It's not that hard. Okay, let's get this started. I'm going to put this down in here after I put some olive oil in it. If you want to come over and look over my shoulder, please do. Get my coffee out of my way here. Well, this starts with just a little bit of lubrication in the bottom of the pot. And that's all I see this as. It's just something that keeps things from prematurely sticking when I don't expect it to. It hasn't happened often, but it did happen a few times when I was younger, so I just learned this to do it, you know. Now, the beef, all right? Got a big, beautiful cut of beef here. Let me pull this out. We've got a fat cap on it, all right? Now, sometimes people will want to sear this stuff. They want to preheat the pan and sear this. That's fine if you want to do that. That's cool. You get some extra flavor. Doesn't change the cook much. Now, whenever I'm cooking, I'll do it with fat side up. So there we go. It's in there. Now I just need to get the rest of the stuff in here. I'm going to cut my carrots, my potatoes. I'm not going to peel. I'm just cutting them up, and we're going to go right in there. Okay, let me get my extra items put to the side here. I've got a lot of stuff that's for building flavor. You know, the Worcestershire sauce, tarragon, black pepper, the wine. That's all flavor building items. The garlic. All of this builds character, flavor, and this beautiful broth that we're going to turn into a gravy. Once again, we're back to the sauces again. Okay, so it's going to be a wonderful brown gravy from all of this. And it's going to be stellar. Now the potatoes, I'm not going to leave them just roasted. I'm actually going to mash these things. They're going to get roasted in there. Once they're finished roasting, then we mash them, skin on and all. I've already washed them. They're ready to go. Okay, and I don't know if I'm using all of those. I'll just cut them until it looks like there's enough in there. All right, so that's just the way sometimes I'll do this stuff. Now this time I choose a utility knife. Why? Yeah, just because that's what I chose. All right. Now on some of the bigger carrots like this, you know, if you've got just too much carrot going on there, you can split that sucker lengthwise. It's not going to hurt a thing. But we can go right into the pot with those. What I'll do with these that are really large like this, I'll go ahead. There we go. And split all of the bigger portions. Just having a little fun with it today. Remember, keep those fingers away from the blades. It's a dangerous thing when using a knife. Now, normally, folks, I'll use a chef's knife for this stuff. So let me get to my comfort zone here. There we go. All right, now I'm going to do it that way, that way, that way, that way. Now, some of these that are like this, if you want, you can quarter them down if they're really big on the ends. All right, won't hurt a thing. And so you'll know, the technique I'm using today isn't really roasting, it's braising, okay? This is going to be a braised roast. I'll say this, braising is the king of cooking, all right? It brings out flavors like nothing else can, all right? So don't ever be afraid to go at it when it comes to braising. And if you're wondering, crock pot cooking is braising, all right? When you have a slow cooker, then you're braising. Now, this looks a little bit to me on the small side. If I was going to boil these, I might cut them like that. However, I'm thinking for roasting, that's more work than I need to do. More like this is a bit more on the right track, okay? The important thing is that I have enough mash to do what I needed, and I thought I might have had one potato too many. I still feel that. So I'm going to leave that last one out. And it never hurts when you get to a certain point on a roast like this. If you want to say, hey, I'm just leaving that part out, look where we're at here. So I'm ready to put my onion in here. Now remember, onion is flavor, and I want that flavor seeping down through everything, okay? So it's going to cover the top of that. Oh, this is simple enough. All I want to do is quarter and slice. So straight down, here, here, then slice. Remember, there's no such thing as a perfect or super safe cutting technique. It does not exist, all right? You have to be careful is what it amounts to. Knives are dangerous, extremely dangerous. So when teaching kids, hey, keep those little rules and use them, make it a part of the kitchen. Now the garlic, simple enough. I want thin sliced garlic to put over the top of all of it, all right? So here we are back to this. Now, I can use my chef's knife for one of these. I just wanted to do it with both. I want to take off that root, all right? Yeah. So I get to the end, I get quite careful because the end is where my finger is, all right? Garlic all over the top. So what I want to do is go with my liquid first, all right? Now I'm going to use up what I have left of some Worcestershire sauce. And here's the thing, is I'm looking for a fairly generous amount of Worcestershire, but you don't have to go crazy. You don't need like, half a cup or anything. As a general rule, for a roast like this, I will put in about a quarter to a third of a cup. And when I'm making my gravy at the end, if it needs a little more acid, it's Worcestershire sauce that I will use to impart that acid. So I'm using something that's already in the dish to give me that nice acidic bite. All right, we need some salt. Remember, you got a lot of food here, so don't be afraid to get some sodium down in there, all right? Black pepper. By the way, if you've noticed that my pepper mill throws down a lot more pepper than other pepper mills that you may have seen around, okay, it's all about this thing right here. It doesn't grind, it crushes the pepper, all right? And this particular brand builds this design so that it crushes the peppercorns, it breaks them more evenly, much more fast. The company that makes this, and I'm not being sponsored, oh, I wish they would sponsor me, that would be cool. A company called William Bounds makes this, and it's worth its weight in gold. I've been using this one for well over a decade, and it is still spitting out garlic the way it was the day I bought it. Okay, so I love that thing. Now, I've got some tarragon here. It's a bit on the heavy side. There we go. Tarragon is a wonderful French herb. All right, and it just adds a nice herby flavor to dishes like this. Okay, so I'm going to put in what looks like maybe a teaspoon of. All right, beautiful. If you're using fresh tarragon, you can use a lot more, but the dried tarragon is going to have a little more robust flavor to it. All right, there's that part of it. Now, I had another liquid that I needed down in there, but this liquid kind of just sits in the bottom. Okay, it just does its own thing down in there. This is some white wine. You can use any kind of wine for this, all right? But I would recommend that it be something that you would at least want to drink. So this is some of the white that I like to enjoy. It's a Pinot Grigio. It's a very nice, comfortable white wine, and it makes dishes like this fantastic. Now I'm going to add 1 to 2 cups of water, just so I see water coming up on the edge right down here. I don't want it to cover my roast, but I want it to be up on the side. And there it is coming up, right where I'm wanting it. right there. Oh yeah. So we put in, you know, that cup of wine, couple cups of water. Everything here, this is ready to go. This is ready to hit the oven. So it goes in there. I'm putting it in at 350 degrees. As far as the length of time, that's really simple. It's going to be until the roast is done. Sounds a little bit arrogant, a bit haughty, but it's going to be a number of hours. It's going to be a long cook on this. The potatoes will be virtually pulpy soft at that point. The meat will be fork tender, and we're going to end up with a fantastic braised roast. Alrighty. That's a lot of food. Alright, here we go. Sunday roast is in the oven. I don't have a lot to do right now. I'm just going to go in and do some other work. I'm going to be working on one of my new on my logo just to improve it. So that's all there is to this part of this dish. Now later, after it's cooked, we're going to take the drippings. We're going to make a gravy. I'm going to run the potatoes through a food mill, and we're going to serve the whole thing up. That's all there is to it. So, roast beef, pretty cool, huh? Well, that is in the oven. I cleaned up my area here, just wiped it down, and I'm just that way. I like to keep a nice clean kitchen even as I'm working. I've always been that way. I'm going to do a 2-hour countdown, and I'll check it in 2 hours. I don't expect it to be ready. I expect it to be maybe an hour, hour and a half away. Who knows, I might get lucky. It's a good quality roast. It's Angus beef, choice cut. And so it should yield me some really, really good roast beef. I'm already hungry for it. But the thing of it is this meal is easy. Making the gravy at the end, that's not hard. And, you know, I'm sitting here deciding whether I want to make my gravy with flour or cornstarch. I'm thinking cornstarch only because I want to appeal to people that want to avoid the use of anything with gluten. So far we're gluten-free on this one, and if I go ahead and make my gravy with cornstarch, we remain gluten-free. Here's the thing. I don't ever cater my recipes to gluten-free. But I figure, hey, if you have an opportunity to make it the way a lot of folks are wanting it made these days and to show them how it can be done just as well, then go ahead. And as you've already seen in the how to make brown gravy video, there's no difference in the flavor, only a difference in the color when you're making brown gravy with flour versus cornstarch. I guess if you've never seen one of these red enameled pots, they change color a little bit in the oven. They get a little darker. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, yeah, it's still quite firm. And there's no rush on any of this. So what I'm going to do is check my potatoes. They're doing fine. I'm going to give it some more time in the oven, plain and simple. So back in the oven it goes. Oh, let me tell you, the aroma, it is unbelievable. It just makes me so hungry. I can't wait. Oh, looks good. The aroma, beautiful, smells really good. Take a look at this. I'm going to move my potatoes right over to here to this and separate the carrots and everything and get everything ready for the meal. How does that look to you? That looks pretty tasty to me. So what I'm going to be doing is setting all my carrots in one bowl. There we go. Now the potatoes right over into the food mill. And if I get a little onion or some garlic with that, it doesn't matter. All that stuff has been cooked down and all these flavors are married together, so it's not going to hurt anything to have a little of that in the mash. It'll probably help it a little, in fact. All right, I do believe I'm making some headway. Yeah. And just uncovered another tater. There we go. Now, this is the trick. I need the juice in here. Now that's the pan I'm going to be making my my gravy in. So let me do it this way. Now with all of that juice was some onion and some garlic. And so what I'm going to do is any of that I can work through that sieve, oh, I'm going to work it through there, and that's going to be part of my gravy this time. All right, put it in here and back in the oven it goes. So while the meat does its thing, I'm going to go ahead and make my gravy and my mash. Now the gravy, there's no rush on this. It'll come together quickly and easily. The mash, though, is going to take a moment. And when I say a moment, I mean a brief moment. Using a food mill isn't really much of a problem. Now these right here, if you want to keep them warm, you can put them back in the oven, or you can put them in, let's say, a toaster oven set for warming, and that's what I'm going to do here. They don't really need to be cooked anymore. They just need to be kept to temperature. Now, food mills are wonderful. You can take potatoes cooked any old way, put it down in this, and have a fantastic mash, and it takes moments to do it. So here we go. Well, most of them are done now. That didn't take much, did it? So anyway, when we do it this way, we break that starch chain in half and just breaks it down so that it's not dense anymore. It's very light and fluffy, and it gives you a better quality. A little bit. That right there was MSG, just a light dusting of it. I want to need some salt in that. Oh yeah. I've got my butter all cut up, and this is about, oh, a quarter cup of butter. So half of a stick, you'd say. And a little bit of cream, about, roughly a quarter of a cup, all right? In a little bit, I'm going to stir all of that together, but for now I'm going to just cover it and let it sit. Get this flame under the gravy, and I want about a medium to medium high flame under there right now. I'm bringing it back to a boil. Now the back pot here with the potatoes, I've got a low flame on that, just keeping it at temperature, and of course the carrots are in the warmer and they're keeping their temperature. Now I've got cornstarch. I need some water. We're going to use cornstarch and water to thicken our gravy, and then we're going to fix any flavor defects that it may have. Like maybe it needs a little Worcestershire sauce or salt. I don't know yet. I haven't tasted it. Alrighty, a little bit of water there. Now, as far as how much of this, you know, I never really measure that close, but I generally estimate a couple of tablespoons is a good start. You want to put it into cold water. Now, if you try to put this in hot water, a lot of times you're not going to get very good results. It really, like flour, it needs to mix into cold water first. Then when you heat it, it does its job of thickening, all right? And it's just a starch, and that's the reason flour works, is it's a starch also, and that's why they thicken. When you mix that starch with heat and you get some expansion going on, oh boy, it gets thick after that. Now, I'll let that sit there until this is boiling. All right, this is up to a boil. That did not take long at all. So let me re-stir my cornstarch here. I'm just going to pour this down in while stirring. And the stir part is important. If you don't stir, you're going to have this kind of whitish looking lump in your hot liquid, which is the cornstarch. I'm going to let this thicken up a little bit, but right now I'm also going to taste it, and this is an important thing. Always taste your stuff, folks. You need to know if you need to correct the seasoning, and this is the only way to know. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is so delicious. You know what? When you have perfection, you just leave it alone. All right? So I really don't need any adjustment of any kind on this. It's perfect just as it is. All right, now I have a little bit of bubbling in the bottom here. Get this. Yeah, I'm just going to stir that now. Oh, that is just beautiful. So what I have here is a beautiful home-style roast mashed potato. Oh, goodness. And right there, it is finished. If I work it anymore, it gets heavy from this point forward. But right here, I've got a perfect thing. Now, I'm going to carve this, and I'm going to mention one thing. When slicing your roast, a roast like this, I really recommend that you cut one of these so that the slices are very thin. Also, if you'll notice, the grain is running this direction here, not up and down, not this way, it's running this way. So I'm going to be cutting along the side here. All right, and that's how I'm going to slice it for my roast. I'll be gentle here. It is quite soft. Now, like I say, I always like to do a thin slice on this kind of a roast, even when they're nice and tender like this. Oh boy, let me tell you, we're talking some delicious roast right here. The quantity of everything that I used today to make this, let's start with the roast. I was cooking a 3 3/4 pound roast. Now, I'm not cooking for a certain number of people. I'm just doing this as a good demonstration. There are 2 of us that live here. We're going to be eating on this probably for a couple of days at least. And the dog will probably be very, very happy. So we have a beautiful 3 3/4 pound roast. I put 4 carrots with it. And that's what I had. I broke out some potatoes, enough to make mash for 2 people for a couple of different meals. And the onion is for flavor, okay? So a medium onion. The same with my cloves, 4 cloves of garlic. And that's sort of relative, isn't it? Okay, if your cloves are small, you might want to use more. When it was all minced up, you're looking at about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons of chopped or minced garlic. Now we've did a slice, but still the same basic rule applies. Salt is going to be to taste, but on average for something this large, you're going to be using somewhere around 1.5 teaspoons, maybe up to 2 teaspoons of salt, and about a same amount on your black pepper. If you want to use tarragon in it, that's fine. Use 1 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons of that also. If it's fresh tarragon, you can double to triple that, all right? And the Worcestershire sauce, use starting with about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of Worcestershire sauce. Make sure you shake it well, and the olive oil just enough to coat your pan when you're starting it up. Beautiful, very, very soft mashed potatoes. Oh yes, I'm so looking forward to that. We always like the little carrots on the side there. Oh yeah, just kind of makes it. And of course, we need a nice sauce over the top. Well, we got the perfect sauce that you can have for a meal like this. Its own beautiful brown gravy. I don't think that it could get much better than that. Oh, look at that. Came out gorgeous, didn't it? That's what we were looking for. You know, when your roast is tender enough you can cut it with your fork. Oh. Those subtle and incredible compound flavors that you can only get from braising. The flavor here is explosive. It's delicious. The mash is so tender, light, and fluffy. You just get a full flavor to it. It's a mash like no other mash. Folks, give it a shot. You're going to love it. Thank you very much for watching. Please look in that description box. Look for my links. You're going to find the link to my website. That's S.A.Trotter.com. Please take a look at that. My recipes are there. My merch is there. And I really appreciate you taking a look at that. And I appreciate those of you who've bought. Thank you very much. Folks, also, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, why not? Click the bell icon so you'll get notified when I post something. And also, start watching. I've got a lot coming out right now and some really good stuff. Click that thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Drop me a comment. I appreciate those of you who do. And folks, you have a good day, all right?